All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Refined Savage for another week's episode. Hey, let's talk a little business before we get started. Viking Coffee. Viking Coffee, you've heard me preach about Viking Coffee. I am sitting here right now enjoying an Old Man Strength brew, which is our signature brew from the podcast. You guys need to try it out. Everyone I have let try Viking Coffee through samples here at the gym has loved it, and people are ordering. Head on over to VikingCoffeeCo.com and use the code VikingCoffee10 at checkout for 10% off. Evan Armstrong bringing you the best handcrafted coffee in the game. Let's talk about strength. This show is all about strength and perseverance. Cerberus is the leader in that kind of activity. Cerberus-strength.us. Go to that website. Check them out now. Knee sleeves, elbow sleeves, sandbags for throwing and for lifting. As Highland Games athletes, you know you're going to need some sandbags this off-season. They are the best in the business. They also have smelling salts and tacky and everything else you could need. They are the top name in the strongman genre, and I want to see you Highland Games people giving them a shot. Support them. They are supporting us, and we love them. Cerberus Strength. Use the code REFINED-SAVAGE10 at checkout for 10% off. WarriorCBDOfficial.com. Warrior CBD. The best stuff on the market. I've tried several different types of CBD oil. The stuff you buy in states like Ohio, states where marijuana is technically illegal, is junk. You guys are getting cheap products made without full spectrum in it. There's no THC in it. Basically, what you're using is essential oils. Warrior CBD is different. These guys not only are a great company, but great people, and their products actually work. I know my sleep is a lot better when I'm taking the CBD oil. They also have products for your dogs to calm them down if they're like freaked out by fireworks or thunderstorms. And they also have muscle rubs. I'm telling you, CBD for muscle rubs, joint aches and pains, the stuff is fantastic. Use the code WARRIOR20 off at checkout for 20% off. The great people at Serious Steel want you to know that they have your back. Anything you need for your strength journey, if you are outfitting a home gym, a garage gym, a CrossFit box, a school gym, a commercial gym, these guys have it all. Anything you can need as far as weightlifting, weight training, whatever you need, exercise of any kind, Serious Steel has it. SeriousSteel.com. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout for 10% off. Iron and Stone Strength. Iron and Stone Strength they're just fantastic people. The gym up there in the Buffalo area is out of this world. If you check out their Instagram, they are posting some incredible pictures of these people just getting after it. But more importantly, their gear is phenomenal. I just picked up a shirt the other day. I am patiently waiting for it to come in. Iron and Stone Strength, they have shirts that you wouldn't be embarrassed to wear out in public. You know, a lot of these muscle shirts, for apparel for companies in the strength game, they look like shit. I'm sorry, they just do. Not Iron and Stone Strength. The gear looks cool. You won't be embarrassed to wear it out in public, and it's functional. Very soft, very cool stuff. Hats, sweatshirts, t-shirts, sweatpants, anything you need, they've got it. Iron and Stone Strength.com. Use the code REFINED-SAVAGE at checkout for 20% off. Finally today, Stay Classy Meats. You know how much I love Stay Classy Meats. They are fueling me through these vicious workouts I've been going through, and some of you guys who follow me on Instagram are seeing what I've been going through, and it's all meat-based. I'm telling you, there is not a green thing in my diet right now. It's all Stay Classy Meats. That's all I'm eating. I'm telling you. Straight out of Bozeman, Montana, the animals that they're raising on these small batch farms are getting the best of everything. Fresh mountain streams, Montana grass. It's why it tastes so good. It's why it's so good for you. It makes a difference. Humanely processed, no hormones, shipped directly to your door. Head on over to StayClassyMeats.com and pick out your box. You have all different types of boxes you can get. You can do a build-your-own box, whatever you want. You need anything, some recommendations on what to put in a box, give me a holler. Stay Classy Meats. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout for 10% off. Today on the show my boy, my buddy, all the way up from the Great White North, Matt Daciw. Matt is a trainer. He is an athlete. He is an overall jack dude. Really thoughtful, interesting dude, too, man. Really great conversation. I think you guys are going to enjoy this one. You're going to learn something. Give him a follow on Instagram and Facebook and all those places. And I want you to sit back, have some Stay Classy meats, and we'll see you at the end. Matt Daciw, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mark. It's good to be here.
You are our first Canadian guest, I believe.
Really?
Yes.
What an honor.
I think so. I think I was trying to think about this morning. I think the only other international guest we've had is Magnus Magnusson. So
no shit.
You are in good company.
Wow, that's great company.
Yeah.
Kid doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, right? That's perfect. How was the trip down?
The trip down was great, actually. I really like driving. Last time I spent a lot of time on the road. I was on a road trip, month-long road trip through the States, actually. So it kind of reminded me of that. It was reminiscent of that. So
where'd you go?
Well, hit up, we went out to the West Coast.
Yeah.
So, hit up, oh man. We went to Grand Canyon, Big Sur, Redwood National Park, the Salt Flats.
Yeah.
The Great Sand Dunes. Oh man, there's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much. The Slot Canyon, Lower Antelope Canyon.
Yeah.
Wow, what a trip that was, man.
I haven't spent much time out west. And the only time I've gone out there is Highland Games trips. So
oh yeah.
You fly in.
It's work.
They drive you
work. It's fun, but
it's fun, but you don't see anything.
Yeah.
The hotel, the field, maybe a bar and a restaurant, and then back to the hotel, and then back to the airport.
You got to check it out, man. So there's two things there that literally were like life-changing experiences to me. And one was so there's a place called Taft Point in Yosemite Park. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've heard about this, but the one area that we went to, you can stand on the ledge. There's no railing there, and I'm afraid of heights.
Yeah.
But I'm one of those people that if I'm afraid of something, I have to do it. And I've been like this for years. So I've been slowly conditioning myself to be able to handle heights. And there's a one edge there that's a sheer drop of 3,000 feet.
Wow.
And if you check out my Instagram at some point, I got a video walking right up to the edge. Now, I'm not like an idiot walking up to it. I'm still like, I don't want a gust of wind to blow me over or anything, right? So I still walk up to it and I'm paying attention. But man, looking down from that, and that was last November when all the forest fires were happening in California as well. Yep. Mm-hmm. So there was this kind of like ethereal fog mist going through, and it almost looked like one of those old like Super Nintendo role-playing games in the background where you see all the mountains. It was unbelievable. And then the other thing was Redwood National Park.
Yeah.
And there's something, for me, there was something, borderline magical about being able to stand on the trunk of a tree that's, 20 to 25 feet in diameter. This tree is over 2,000 years old. It's older than Christianity.
Yeah, right.
And I was hugging it.
Right.
And I'm not going to lie, I teared up.
Yeah.
I just had this feeling of extreme gratitude to be there. But man, there's a lot of really amazing things in this world, and
that's awesome.
Try to do my best to take some time to see it.
Yeah, I started. We started when we were in Iceland, and you go to these places that are awesome, and you buy the T-shirt, you buy some stupid snow globe or anything, and it really doesn't do it justice. And then what do you have? You have this piece of shit you put on your shelf. So when I started going to these places, like so when we went to Iceland, and I went up to Husafell, and that was one of those magical experiences where that for 500 years, all these not just strongmen but warriors and fishermen and everyone had tried to lift this stone. And you're standing in at the foot of this glacier, and you've just traveled all the way across the Atlantic to do this, and I thought, I got to get the tattoo, permanent. So I did the Icelandic rune on my forearm, and then I think it was the next year we went down to Tulum, Mexico, and checked out the ruins down there.
The ruins, yeah.
And you're walking through this place and just trying to picture the way it was 800-900 years ago, and you got that same vibe that
it's a different energy, man. It's something like you almost can't put it into words. You feel it,
right,
but you can't express it. I actually got myself in a little bit of trouble there. I went back there when I was probably early 20s. And we were checking out the ruins, and I'll admit I did something I wasn't supposed to do. But we were at this one spot. We looked over to kind of the main temple, and I could see people climbing up the steps.
Yeah.
So when we went over there, me being an idiot, I'm like, photo op. And this was even before social media was a thing. So I'm like, okay, get out the camera. And it said don't go up there, but I was an idiot. I'm still an idiot, but I was more of an idiot back then.
Right.
And I saw people go up, so I was going up, and all of a sudden I hear these rocks hitting the stairs next to me, and I looked down. There was a person working there, and he was telling me to come down. He was throwing rocks at me to get my attention. So I felt pretty stupid.
Yeah.
But you learn as you get a little bit older to respect that kind of stuff, because there's a reason.
Yeah.
They don't want things to break down, and you got to respect that. But man, you're right. It was a really cool.
The vibe was just amazing, and you start to listen to those again as you get older, and things start to quiet down a little bit, and you just get that energy from those people that lived there and died there, and you're looking at the temple and it overlooks the ocean view, and you can just imagine what these people were doing.
Yeah, what life must have been like. And, simpler times.
So anytime I go to a place now that's magical like that, I'm going to get the tattoo and just keep it with me.
I like that. That's a great idea. It hadn't occurred to me. I don't have a lot of ink yet. I want to get more.
Yeah.
I've been, up until the last couple of years of my life, I've been bouncing from, career to career to career, and I never had, very much extra money. So it was always just pay the bills first.
Yep.
Get the artwork done later.
I was in the same boat. When I was throwing pro Highland games, that was the major source of my income.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. We talked about this with Beau Fay. When I got into the sport, none of the pros had jobs.
Yeah.
All they did was fucking throw. And it was like, how do you live this way? But they were doing, 30, 40 games a year, going to Scotland, going to Iceland,
Well, do you get your trips paid for to some degree? The flights, anyways. You're still
if we're flying out to Pleasanton or Enumclaw or Portland, they would always pay for your flights, your hotel, your rental car, and then you got prize money on top.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a good way to, as a late 20s, early 30s, it was a great way to make a living.
Well, yeah, you're just doing what you love, right? You get to go out and throw heavy stuff and have some fun and get paid to do it.
You got paid to go on a road trip with your buddies.
Hard to complain about that.
Right. And so then I had a phony baloney job where I worked for the county. I started out as a corrections officer and then moved into like this admissions type deal where I worked the night shift, and basically I sat in my office all night, and if no police officers arrested anybody, I didn't have to take any phone calls. So I was watching Game of Thrones and, all these movies and, falling asleep. And it worked out well for a guy who, was focusing on just throwing.
Yeah.
But that's how we ended up meeting was, what games I don't even remember what games that was.
I think honestly the first time I met you, you and Carrie were doing a school in Fergus.
Oh, right.
And I was still...
That's right, because you were the young Craig Smith. We called you the young Craig Smith when we saw you.
Was Craig Smith handsome, too?
He's a handsome devil.
Oh, okay, good.
He had super long hair, though. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I haven't done that since I had the rat tail back when I was a kid. Apparently, those aren't cool. No one told me. I kept it till grade 6. Now I understand why I didn't have a girlfriend until I was 17.
Rat tail
that legacy, it held on to me. It stayed around like toe fungus. I couldn't get rid of it for a while.
Yeah, it'll stick with you. Sometimes those hair choices. I remember being in junior high and having the Brian Bosworth, line shaved to my head. And then there's some footage of me like sophomore year where I had this awesome mullet, and I would throw the shot put, and I would have to pull the mullet over to the side in order to put the shot put on my neck. Buddy. So that's how I started every throw.
Oh, yeah. Glamour.
Could not have been cooler.
You were like the road warrior.
Yes.
You just need some spikes hanging out of your
pads, and I would have been in.
A little bit of face paint.
So we met at the Fergus Clinic. I forgot about that clinic.
Yeah. That was quite a while back now. Yeah,
Warren invited us up. That was a crazy trip, and we went up that morning, and I remember we were a little bit late because we get, hit at the border, and getting Carrie Overfelt through the border is never fun. He always gets stopped for something.
Oh, yeah?
All my years, I never got stopped.
It's because he just looks like such a shady cat, doesn't he?
He looks Mexican. That's the problem. They think he's illegal. He's coming across the border. He's crossing several borders.
He's got to come hang out with me for a while and get no tan for like 3 years, and then maybe he'll look a little bit less Mexican.
Up in the true north up there.
Yeah.
You're in Kitchener, right?
Kitchener, yeah.
I don't know if I've ever been to Kitchener or not.
It's a stone's throw away from Fergus. It's probably about half an hour away from Fergus.
I remember seeing signs for it.
Yeah. And it's, what I like about that area, so Kitchener, Guelph, Waterloo, I always say it's, you've got a metropolis kind of level. I shouldn't say that, but you've got a larger population, so you got a big town population with a small town kind of community feeling. So you have a big town culture, with a small town. Like everyone still, for the most part, a lot of people still hold the doors. They still say hi. They still smile. I find in when you go to the bigger cities there's a lot more people, you don't get that quite as much. And
I think that's Canada, though, right? I mean, it's just a nicer vibe up there.
Yeah, for the most part. Like I said, because a lot of there's not as many places that are so population dense. Because I find if I go to Toronto, it's not the same feeling. It's still a great city, don't get me wrong. And on an individual level, the people are really nice. Right. But on a walking around, and I think that's just to some degree human nature, because I think if you're the type of person that puts that energy out where you're smiling, you're saying hi, and you're holding doors for people, but you're in a city that has 4 million people, not everyone's going to be doing the same, and then eventually you just stop.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
and that's it's not a little bit. It's such an international city. You have people with cultural differences that opening doors for women is not exactly always what they do. And it's not. I think people take that the wrong way. It's just. It's that culture. It was the way they were brought up,
and that's the thing. And I think it's tough sometimes for people to understand that the cultural difference is not a personal difference.
Yes,
it's how you were. It's the environment you were raised in. Just like if we were to hang out with one of the Spartans from way back when, they might not be particularly nice to us. We don't know, but they might have had a ton of honor. They might have still been good human beings. They might have still been, in every other way you could respect them. But because they don't hold a door for you, you might think, that guy's an asshole.
It's really interesting you say that, because I've got a couple people in my life who I think are of that same ilk. There are these modern day Spartans walking around. I've got a friend here at the gym who his name's Isaac, who I talk about a lot on the show. Force Recon sniper.
Oh, badass.
Yes, he was in Fallujah, Purple Heart, the whole 9 yards. But we talk about things, and so we were talking about Generation Kill. I don't know if you've ever read that book or saw the show. It's on HBO. It's about basically the troop that came in before him. So he basically relieved these guys, and they were a force recon troop that were the tip of the spear in Iraq, and went through and open-aired Humvees and just stormed cities like Genghis Khan, And some of those guys have become super famous. And I talked to Isaac the other day, and I said, because he works basically stonework and construction for a company that he's basically taking over from his father, but it's hard labor all day long. And he comes in at the end of the day and does the workouts with us, and has four kids, religious guy, whole 9 yards. And I said, you could be one of these Rudy Reyes types. Rudy Reyes was in that Generation Kill. I don't know if you know Rudy Reyes. But he's an Instagram famous guy, probably has 70,000 followers, making money just being a celebrity.
Yeah.
Isaac's built just like him, and he's super jacked, and he's got all the pedigree and everything. He's like, I'm not interested.
Not interested.
Yeah.
And that's man, it depends on the person. Like some people, being at that, that kind of level in social media and whatever, it takes a lot out of you. It's very demanding in a way, and you lose a lot of privacy, and you lose some degree of isolation. And I think some people, I need that in my life. Like my gym, when I go there from start to finish, even during my workouts, everyone wants to talk. Everyone wants to say hi, and everyone they don't. It's not that they demand your attention, but if you're a person that gives a shit, your attention is demanded of you. You know what I mean? And then when you finally get home at the end of the day, it's like, I just want some peace and quiet. Like a lot of nights where I don't watch Netflix. I just sit at home in the quiet, and I won't even necessarily do anything. I'll just sit in the quiet and enjoy the quiet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why this road trip for you driving here. How was the drive? It was nice. Yeah, it was quiet. It was soothing.
I get that.
Yeah, and I think to some people, not being able to get that, or to some degree being, in the limelight, that takes that away from you. And especially if you start going places and everyone knows you, then you don't get a chance to escape from that.
It's a delicate balance for sure. Because when I started this, the guy who was working with me, good friend of mine, Matt, he was telling me, you got to promote yourself. You got to put yourself out there. And it's weird. You have to remember to film workouts and get someone to take your picture while you're flipping a tire. And it's another stupid part of this, but it gives people, I can't tell you how many people, when I post a video, like if I post a picture of, anything, but if I post a picture of a workout and I put the workout down, how many responses I get, how many people say, I did that workout and it was awesome, or that picture inspired me to do this. And it's just like, okay, I get that this isn't what I thought it was at first. It's not about, oh, look how awesome I am, here's the picture.
Yeah,
it's like you're trying to get that guy who's 40 years old off his couch and get him some motivation to pick up a sandbag or go run a mile or do something. And when I look at it that way, it becomes easier. But it's still weird that everything you do almost has to be, chronicled.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So as a person that, that's a humble person, that's not really like in actuality kind of one of those showboats or those douchebags. And I mean, I've got a supplement sponsorship and stuff, and in the contract I'm supposed to make three posts a week. Mm-hmm. Now
that's almost nothing.
And that's almost nothing. But the company that sponsored me, they're amazing. The owner's fantastic, and he's like, I don't want you to be a brand whore. And he's like, just do what you do.
Yeah.
Just put our hashtags there.
Yeah.
And it was, and when I started the personal training thing, it was extremely hard. Like, so, if you ever go in and check my Facebook, before I started personal training, I think in all the years I had social media, there was one picture with me with my shirt off.
Yeah.
Now my gym's got no AC. And now it's like every video, every picture, a lot of times there's no shirt because it's 45 degrees Celsius in there. So people are like always making, but it's not necessarily about the, I have to put that stuff out there for one, but it is a very strange feeling. And a friend of mine too, because I have a really hard time with it. Like I still have a really hard time trying to promote myself and make these videos. Like you have a hard time wrapping my head around it. And there's a guy that spoke at, so I've got a business coach back home, and he puts on these mastermind clinics and everything, and we go there to learn and grow, and it's really an amazing experience. And he had this guy come in, Scott Rockcliffe, and we had a chance to go out to dinner with them afterwards, and I was talking to him, and he said something very similar to you, and it really hit me hard. And he said, he was talking about his dad and his good friend's dad, and they were about the same age, and they were about the same lifestyle, and they're kind of overweight, and he's always been trying to get his dad to be a little bit more active and be healthy. And one day he heard from his friend that his friend's dad passed away of a heart attack. And he thought, oh shit, that could be my dad. It could be any day. And he said, when someone like you says to me that it's hard for you to post, he says, I get it. He says, but what if you're the only person that can reach someone like my dad?
Yeah.
What if you're the only person that can get him to get off that couch, and you don't make the post because you're afraid to be on camera?
Yeah.
Or you don't, you feel awkward doing it. He says, you don't realize how much inspiration, how much power you can have. And whether you think you're promoting yourself or not, the fact of the matter is that being there and doing what you do can be an inspiration to others and can be that one thing that gets them moving.
Yeah.
And if it's that, then why not do it? And then like you said, once you start looking at it like that, it becomes a little bit easier.
Well, the other thing is if you're an accountant, you want people to know how great you are at being an accountant.
Yeah.
And part of being a trainer and working with people and promoting a fitness lifestyle, you can't be a big fat slob.
Yeah.
So if you take a picture with your shirt off, it's kind of like saying, look how fucking great an accountant I am.
Yeah.
So
that's
kind of the way I look
I'm managing a lot of accounts here.
Doing well.
Yeah. Each one of these abs is an account that I'm managing.
Right. I think that's, and it gives people, I know in my case, I get a lot of, I've been getting a lot of former pro throwers who are contacting me and going, what are you doing? How are you doing this? And to be honest, all it is discipline, just like it was when I threw.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't have been as heavy when I threw as I was, but I thought because everyone was that heavy,
that was just the thing to do.
That's what I was supposed to do,
Yeah.
and I never felt good. it's not nice. It's not fun to walk around always feeling like you have to take a shit. Yeah. Not being able to tie your shoes.
Constantly sweating, sleeping and sweating, struggling to breathe.
Fun.
Yeah.
And so I get a lot of people. We've got a lot of pro throwers and ex-pro throwers on my online training program, which isn't. I always say I'm not an online coach because I don't do well with that. All I do is I put out 4 templates a week.
Yeah.
And you can follow whichever one you want. And one of them is the exact program I do now. One of them is the exact program I did when I threw. One of them is a foundations program for young athletes.
That's awesome.
And then one of them is a program more geared towards strongmen. And it's just like, hey, $25. You want to follow this program? It'll come out every Sunday and you can run it. But we have a lot of ex-pro throwers who are going on that standard program that I'm doing just so they can lose some weight. And man, that's great. Let's get that, because once you're done throwing, you can't be 300-400 pounds anymore.
No. Well, you won't last long.
No, it's not a big.
It's hard on the body and it's hard on the life. And I mean, if you got like a big thing too, I think, is especially if you got a family, you got to think about the impact you're making on them, and a lot of it, I made a post recently about, and I'm in some ways I would say I have it easy because I'm single, I don't have kids, I don't have a family, I don't have to worry about that stuff. But I also have an extremely large amount that I take on my plate. There's not a lot of times when I'm not doing something or have a big project I'm working on or something. And I don't necessarily publicize everything I'm doing by any means, but I made this post about, I got up in the morning and, I got this huge list of things done in a very short amount of time. And I was proud of that. So I posted it. And I said something along the lines of like, just stop making excuses, get off the phone, focus, and get stuff done. And the guy messaged me up actually, and nothing against him, but he said, get kids. He said, let's change, and get kids, and I get that, and I understand that, but I also think that you can't use that as an excuse because kids are smarter than you give them credit for, and they'll watch you. And if you're overweight, or if you're out of shape, or you're not eating healthily, they're going to grow up like that. Quite possibly too. Our parents are our models for God, right? And if you're doing something, there's a good chance that they're going to do that too. So, you might say you don't have time for it, but that's like saying you don't have time for your kids. Maybe spend a little bit less time playing, and maybe spend a little bit more time teaching them how to meal prep.
Yeah.
Like it's cool to go to the park and all that stuff is very important, but maybe create some sort of balance. And it's easy, like I said, it's easy for me to sit here, so I don't want to criticize parents because I don't have kids. I had a plant once that lasted 2 weeks. I got one of my clients gave me a kale. I put it outside, it's still dying. Yeah. So maybe I'm not the person to be slinging out advice, but I do know from my own personal experience as a kid, that much I can say is that very much we take on the habits of our parents. And if you don't make an effort to make being healthy a habit, then your kids most likely will not look at it that way either.
I agree with that 100%. I think the biggest problem is not kids; it's the phone. I think people just spend too much time looking at it. And I'm now tracking my hours every day just to see. And it's hard because a lot of my business is done on that phone, and it becomes how much of that is business and how much of it is me just scrolling through Instagram. But you always get that one guy who automatically that post must have hit him.
Yeah.
And now he wants to give you an excuse. Like you're actually talking directly to him.
Yeah.
And he's going to tell you why he can't do all that stuff. Now, I have a kid, and I spent a lot of time and energy with my wife, and she's stepmom, but she's been around since he was 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So it's just like another mom to him. So we spent a lot of time figuring out what's the best way to raise this child, and we knew exercise was going to be a huge part of his life. We knew eating properly was going to be a big part of his life. We knew that he needed to do some reading. We knew he needed to look for role models that weren't necessarily in 2019 society. So I've said this a million times, we're basically raising him in the 80s because we think we had a good, solid upbringing, not just from our parents, but the things we saw on TV, believe it or not. The Arnold movies and the Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, they didn't necessarily, these weren't cultural phenomena that made you a better person, but they gave you a sense of the heroic and battling back from adversity and those kinds of things.
The underdog,
that kind of stuff. We've always been the type of people that, as far as his curfew and stuff, he comes in when the streetlights come on, just like we did when we were kids, and now that he's getting into high school, we're very, very lenient about curfews and stuff until he fucks up.
Yeah.
Once he fucks up, then we got to make a decision on how we deal with it. But until then, he's taking upon himself to be responsible. I like what you said about the list. I think the list is the most important thing we do every day. You put that list down and put workout on the list. Yep. Put it down on the list that you're going to work out at some point.
Yeah.
And it's such a great feeling of accomplishment at the end of the day that you finished off that list.
Well, and one of the things about busting your ass throughout the day, man, because I've battled with the depression issues and anxiety issues before, but I think most people can relate to at some point getting to the end of the day when you're finally done work and sitting there and feeling guilty about relaxing. One of the things I like about getting up and right from the get-go, make my bed, get up, meal prep, laundry, clean the kitchen, do the dishes, take out the garbage, everything, go to work, do this, do a good job for my clients, get my workout, come home. I can come home and I can sit down, and when I used to be like, fuck, I gotta do shit, now I'm like, no, I can sit down and I can feel good about it.
Right.
And that anxiety falls away, and to sit down at the end of from the first moment you get up to the moment you go to work, to the moment you finish work, you come home and you're like, I've been busting my ass all day. You can finally sit down with a sense of peace and be like, no, I deserve a break. Yep. Because you gotta have that too. If you burn yourself out, you're good to no one. And I've done that. I've done that a lot. Like I've owned a gym now I've been part owner of a gym for about 3.5 years. And once I started personal training, once it really started taking off, for probably 2.5 years, I was working, no bullshit, anywhere from 60 to 100 hours a week every week. And, I was near hospitalization at a couple points. I had my blood pressure at one point was like 190 over 120. I started to develop, I was having anxiety attacks. I developed like a claustrophobia. There was one day I remember sitting at the kitchen table for breakfast and having like this panic, and I actually felt like I was going crazy, and I wasn't sleeping. Yeah. And I was killing myself. But then I was a piece of shit for all the people that I needed to be a good person, like I needed to be a strong person for. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's, if you work 80 hours a week at 50% capacity, you're only putting in 40 hours. Yeah. So if you put in 40 hours, but you found a way to work at 100 or even to increase your capacity, then you get more done. You still have that work-life balance, and you can still be the person you need to be. And I want to kind of go off on a tangent because you were talking about raising a kid in the 80s, and I want to get this the thought kind of out there because it popped into my head, and I've thought about this before, and I think that's a really cool thing because it's funny because if you look at TV and all this stuff as it's been evolving, and I think this is a human nature thing, is that it's only going to get worse. If you look at movies and TV shows and all this stuff, and you look at the progression and the evolution of it, with the entertainment industry, and this is like a human nature thing where familiarity breeds this kind of like, sense of like a boredom. Right. So with entertainment, it's always like every new movie, every new show is a matter of outdoing the one before and being more outrageous than the thing before. Yeah. And because of that, when we can look at those old movies, and you and I can appreciate the simplicity of some of it, but nowadays people need to be wooed, and they need to be in awe, and they need these special effects, and they need all this crazy stuff. And because of that, we're getting to society where just the simple things don't mean anything anymore because we need to have all this other crap, and I think detaching from that is really important. Understanding that, like life is not all about, all the stuff and all this crazy shit and special effects and all this other stuff. It's, it's about the simple things, holding the door for people, getting up in the morning, making your bed, having good friendships, good relationships, doing things that matter. It's not about having stuff. And it's not about impressing people with the shit that you have. Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I am very people accuse me of being antisocial, and I am. It was funny. We have a charity event coming up for one of our coaches, and we're having an event at the gym, and then I think the next weekend there's a party for the coach's husband who's sick, and but it's like a fundraiser. And when my wife mentioned it to me, I got such anxiety from that. And it's not until September. And I'm worried about having to go to this party and being stuck in a room talking to people who not that everyone involved is a fantastic human being because they're coming out to support this woman and her husband. It's just the fact that I'm there, and there's a possibility that I could be there all night talking to people. And it's such a weird feeling. But I have this small group of friends. We were just down in St. Pete, Florida, and we were hanging out with Kibwe and Crystal Johnson, who I talk about on the show a lot. And they're this couple who have these two amazing kids, and I love them so much because every time I'm with them, I learn something, and I think deeply about things. And she is a self-professed weirdo, but so are Aaron and I, you know, so we really get each other. And it was, the best part of the trip, other than being down there with my wife and son, was getting to hang out with these people that I never get to see. And I have this small group of friends like that who, if I go someplace, number one thing on the agenda. So when we go to St. Pete Beach, the number one thing on our agenda is go see the Johnsons and go see the Lillas, who are another good friend of ours. And it's just it's when you collect those friends that make your life better, not just friends because you just know them. Yeah. And we're going to go...
Not drinking buddies.
Exactly. And we're going to go sit at the bar and talk about our kids' soccer games. Yeah. Fuck, I can't do that.
You have friends that add value to your life. Yes. And that you feel that you contribute to their life.
And maybe those people will add value to somebody else's life. We're just not on the same page.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
But I can't do that. Like, it's funny. One of the guys in here who I really love, his name's Mike. He's one of those people who I get stuff from. He's one of these hard charging, just never quit, get after it. He's the same age as me, super jacked, but he's also like, he's the guy you would call at 3 o'clock in the morning to come pick you up in a different state. Yeah. Be there. But he was having a get together at his house the other night, and he came up to me and he goes, I feel like I gotta ask you if you want to go to this. And I go, man, I'm not going to that. That sounds horrible. I'm not coming out to that. And I'm always honest with him. And he just laughed. He knew, but he felt obligated to come and ask me if I wanted to go to it. I was going to say no. Yeah. But, yeah, that's
good on him though. Good on him though, and it's important. That's the thing, and it's those relationships that are more than just a surface level relationship. Yeah. There's people that you can connect with on a deeper level, and there's just some. I don't know if it's a vibration. I don't know what it is. Like my I call him my business coach, but in reality, like I took a couple of his courses, and then I went. He does this business coaching, fitness stuff, and then so we went to his house and we actually polished off a bottle of whiskey and he's just one of these guys that his mind takes chaos and it makes order. And he's unbelievable. His name's Joe Arco. And we became like best friends. And it was funny how organically it was like, we met, we hung out a couple times, and then it was just, we connected on a brotherhood level. And never has that been questioned once. And I mean, there's even times when, as a business coach, as a real friend, he's told me, Matt, you're a fucking idiot. Yeah. Matt, you're stupid. Stop fucking up. And I think that's important, to have people in your life that tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. A lot of people don't have the guts to do that.
That's my wife, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
It pisses me off, and she'll tell me this shit, and then I'll have to take it. Because I've worked on my temper and my attitude over the years, and she'll say something to me, and I'll just sit there and fucking stew on it for literally sometimes a day, and I'll come back and be like, "You're right."
But that's it, though. But that's the catalyst. You need to stew over it, right? And you're right. Like Joe's got a motto. One of his more recent mottos. I'm the idiot.
Yeah.
When he looks at a lot of these situations and these things happen, and he always goes back and reassesses, and 9 times out of 10, he's like, I'm the idiot. Yeah. I could have done this differently. I could have worded this differently. I could have attacked this in a different way. Or maybe I could have listened more or done this. And I've been trying to adopt that myself. And I like to think I like to think, I've had to some degree of understanding I was an idiot for a long time.
Well, it's part of that extreme ownership that Jocko talks about.
Yes.
Having
I love that guy.
It's my fault. Even though that guy's a screw up, it's my fault because I didn't get him in the place where he should be to be successful.
Yeah, and people don't understand that. Like even and even before I heard all this stuff, I've in numerous different careers and stuff. And when I mess up, and someone's like, "Oh, someone did this, and this," I'll be like, "That was me.
Mm-hmm.
I fucked up. I'm sorry. Like now I know, I'll change." And that's important. I mean, no one's perfect.
Yeah.
Once you understand, you come to terms with the fact that it's okay to make a mistake, but learn from it and grow from it. There's a lot of power in that. It's the people that are afraid to make mistakes that don't get anywhere. You can't be down on the field if you're so scared about losing you don't want to play.
Yeah, right?
So I really like that. I love Jocko's stuff.
He's super motivating, and we've talked to some people like Isaac, who's one of those hard charger special forces type guys, and I've got another friend in jiu-jitsu who's a SEAL just getting out, and I'm a history guy, so I love especially the history of warfare and that kind of stuff. So that stuff intrigues me, but it's more the discipline aspect of these guys and how they get to the point where they are the tip of the spear. When you join the military, you can be a motor pool guy in the National Guard, or you can be on SEAL Team 6 raiding Osama bin Laden's compound.
Yeah.
And there's so much in between there. And it's, when I talk to Isaac, he talks about how as soon as he heard about what Force Recon was, he wanted to go be Force Recon.
Yeah.
I had another guy who I trained Eric, who he wanted to be Green Beret. So he joined up for this program they have here in the States, which is basically a scam where they say, well, you join the Army, and we're going to fast track you to Special Forces. If you do well enough, 99.99% aren't ever going to make it. Well, he took it up, and then he came to me and said, I need to be in the best shape possible to do this.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Motherfucker went through basic training, scored at the top of his class, went right into jump school, scored at the top of his class, went through Green Beret school, scored at the top of his class for the physical part of it with a broken foot.
Wow.
And now I don't know what the fuck he's doing because he won't tell you.
He's not allowed to tell you.
So, which is super cool.
And that's unreal. That's amazing because that just goes to show too. Like when I chuckled at the fast track because you look at these things. It's like, how the fuck do you fast track something like that? But man, there's that 0.01% of the population that has a whole different level of will and grit and determination that the average person cannot fathom.
Yeah.
And they can't wrap their head around.
Yeah, Jocko talks about it. I've heard Isaac talk about it when they go through these, Bud-style programs. And it's not to get you in shape. It's to weed out the ones that can't handle it.
Yeah.
And I talked to Isaac, and he goes, you would have been fine. And I said, I can't do half that shit. He goes, yeah, but you wouldn't have quit.
Yeah, and that's the thing with those programs, right? They know the physical stuff is doable. They just want to know, are you going to be mentally tough enough to push through the anguish of not stopping and going through all the stuff that makes you miserable and uncomfortable and in pain and tired and sad.
I bet you're the same way, but I don't know if I could have lived with myself. Like, say, if I went through Buds or recon school or whatever, I don't think I could have lived with myself being the guy who went up and rang the bell to quit.
Yeah.
To walk across a beach in front of all your peers and ring that fucking bell and say, I don't want anymore.
Yeah, no fucking way you'd drag me out in a fucking ambulance first.
I couldn't mentally handle that the rest of my life being the guy who quit.
Yeah. But that's because I think that's you're a different type of human being than other people. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. We need all different types of people.
Yeah.
But I think there's some that have that level of spirit where they're not going to quit.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what you do to me. I'm not ringing the fucking bell.
Yeah.
I'm not taking a knee. Like you're gonna have to kill me first.
We screwed up last summer. It was like a day, like it's been down here like 95, 98 degrees. And me and my son are working out. And I came up with this brilliant fucking idea that we were going to do
I see your eyes rolling.
40-minute EMOM, and so every minute on the minute we were going to do a deadlift, a clean, a hang clean, and a jerk with 70% of our max.
Oh, Christ, for 40 minutes?
For 40 minutes. So we get about 10 minutes into this, and my son looks at me and goes, "Can we stop at like 15?" And I go, "No, we're fucking in this now. We got to stick it out till the end." And by the end, I'm dying. He's dancing. So like 30 minutes in, he
got his 17th wind.
Right. And I just wanted to die by the time we were done. And but that's hopefully he'll take that lesson.
Yeah.
And just realize that once we're in this, we're in this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we're committed. And that's actually an interesting point too. Then, and I think this because I can tie something back to what you were saying about people training and getting in shape at an older age or something. You just got to do it. I hear this a lot from people. You just got to do it. You just got to do it. And I had this explained to me. I went and saw a psychologist not too long ago. Just, I think everyone should. I
don't think it hurts you for sure.
No. I mean, well, it's just, they're just a mirror. They just reflect things back onto you and give you a perspective that maybe you wouldn't have seen. I can't see the pimple on my face because I'm not looking at my face.
Yeah,
if I have a mirror, I can see this stuff. A pimple, or maybe I haven't shaved my beard, whatever analogy. But, and he said the issue that most people have is they kind of think of themselves as one part. And he said when in reality we're broken into at least three parts. And he said he kind of looks at it like a triangle. At the top of the triangle you've got your thinking mind. That's your clarity. That's your reason. That's your ability to look at a situation with logic. And he said, for example, if you're a bipolar person or you had like a clinical depression or something, that part isn't working unless I medicate you, he says. And he said, then over on this, the one bottom corner, we've got, the feeling side. And, the feelings, obviously feelings are feelings. They could be good or bad, but a lot of times they come based on childhood. So, I had a lot of issues in my childhood I won't really get into, but there's feelings of abandonment, betrayal, all this stuff. And they can, they can steer you in one direction or another. He said the other part of the triangle is behaviors, and he says that's what we manifest. So we either take from the thinking portion or we take from the feeling portion, and then we manifest, and that's our behaviors. He said the problem is most people spend most of their time behaving based on how they feel, and he said that can be a good thing. But a lot of times we have these pre-programmed negative feelings that create negative actions because we do this stuff without thinking. So, for example, in my case, it was relationships. I was doing a lot of, negative things to sabotage relationships because when I was young, I had these things happen to me and I had, these feelings of abandonment and betrayal. And it was like the people that were supposed to love me most weren't there when I needed them. So subconsciously, I had this pre-programmed, belief that, whoever says they love me, they're going to abandon me at some point. So I'm going to, on some level, do it first.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, he looked at relationships. He said, when we started this practice a long time ago, we always used to look at why relationships fail. And he said, and then we switched gears, and he'd been doing this for 40 years. He said, we started looking at why relationships succeed. And he said, 5.3 out of 10 relationships succeed. And he said, we ask why. And he says, not love. Love is a feeling. Feelings can come and go. He says, I love my wife. He said, but I'd be lying if I said some days I don't want to strangle her and bury her outside my backyard. He said, but the reason relationships succeed is because of commitment. And commitment is a function of the thinking mind, not the feeling. He said, if you go back in your life and you audit how many times you act based on your feelings and you realize that most of the time that didn't create a successful behavior, a behavior that led to something positive, you start to realize that acting based on feelings can oftentimes be the enemy. And you need to learn how to segregate or isolate that and start acting based on commitments. Because when you're committed to something, it doesn't fucking matter if you feel like doing it, you do it. If you're committed to a relationship and some hot girl wants to come sit on your lap, it doesn't matter if you feel horny in the fucking moment, you don't do it because you're committed to that person you're with. If you're committed to your workouts, these last 6 weeks, 5 weeks now, I've been training my balls off probably harder than I ever have in my life. And, I did that strongman competition. I saw you that in March.
Yeah, right.
And not long after that, some shit happened in my life and I allowed myself to go downhill. I lost 15 pounds. I wasn't training. I was partying. I wasn't sleeping. And, I woke up one day and said, this is not how I fucking go down. And, I met him and I started putting that into action. And every single day I work out, I'll be honest with you, I don't feel like doing it. But I'm committed, so I fucking do it. In 4 weeks, I've put 100 pounds back on my squat.
Yeah.
You know, and like I'm in the best shape of my life, and every single day I get up, and none of these things do I want to do, but I'm committed to being a better person. I'm committed to, you know, like getting to where I want to get, and I'm not willing to settle for less anymore. So whether I feel like it or not, I still do it. And the cool thing is, you don't have to just change everything all at once. You bits and pieces. I just got up, I started making my bed and doing the dishes.
Yeah.
And that was hard. And then, you know, today when I left the hotel, I made my bed. I know they're going to come in, hopefully rip all the sheets off and everything. But, you know, I still, because that's it now. I don't not do that.
Yeah.
Matt Daciw is the guy that, you know, he does those things now. And whether I feel like doing things or not, I do them. And he said the problem with, you know, acting on your feelings consistently, he said if you look at it like a triangle, he said it should be an equilateral triangle. Eventually, you start acting based on your feelings so much that the connection happens so quickly you stop thinking. It's all reactive.
Yes.
And you said you need to space that back out again and have the connection between your behavior and your commitments be the thing that isn't what you think about. It's just what you do.
The whole basis behind this podcast for me was dealing with that. So when I was throwing, and we didn't have a lot of interactions when I was throwing, but I was not a great human being. I was throwing for a paycheck. I needed that money. And the way I always grew up in athletics was I fed off the negativity. You can't do that. Well, fuck you. I'll do it harder. Yeah. You know, so that's how
fuels me.
That's how I lived and worked. But it was horrible for every aspect of my life. And when you talk about commitments now, with my wife, obviously there's times where we're not happy with each other, but you know, we were just talking about this the other day. We're taking separate trips in August. She's going on a girls' trip to Myrtle Beach, and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go down to Key West by myself and just hang out. We're doing a couple podcasts. I'm gonna hang out at the beach. I'm gonna hang out at the bars. But we were talking about that. She's like, I have no concerns with you hooking up with some girl down there or anything like that. Now, coming from me, when I was throwing with my first marriage, you would have had some fucking concerns. Yeah. Because we're in the beer tents and there's girls everywhere and they're kilt groupies.
You're a celebrity. If you're pro thrower, everyone wants you.
And I just took advantage of that whenever the hell I wanted to because that's just the human being I was. But I was disciplined in the sport. I was disciplined. I never missed a workout. I never missed a throwing session. I threw as hard as I could. I went after it. Everything else in my life was shit, though. So when I got out, I just took that discipline and moved it to every other aspect of my life and tried to get everything in order. And like you talked about, taking those small steps, one at a time, and changing things around, it changed my whole life for the bigger, but it wasn't an overnight thing. And when people look at me, they shouldn't just see what's going on now on Instagram. They should see, and the guys I threw with know what I was like in my 30s. And I think when you talk about, you know, acting from your feelings as opposed to that thinking part, I was always acting on the feeling. Yeah. Whatever that feeling was, am I angry? Am I horny? Am I, you know, whatever it is, I just acted on those feelings immediately. And even now, it takes some thoughtful contemplation not to act on those feelings. If I'm in traffic and somebody cuts me off and I want to scream at them or give them the finger, I got to think to myself, all right, just fucking relax. Maybe that guy, you know, is 100 years old and has no idea what he just did, or maybe this person's having a horrible day, and I just have to, it's a constant battle with myself to rein that in and use my brain and not, you know, feelings all the time.
Yeah, and when you said it right there, actually, Stephen Covey talks about that in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He calls it your response ability. You know, so in between stimulus and response is your ability to choose how you respond. Right, and the issue with most people is they've become so reactive that how they behave is based on, like, my temper is an issue. And, you know, when I think back and I look at it, so my dad never hit me as a kid. He was fucking an explosively angry, terrifying person. And I mean, I remember seeing him pick up a table and just smash it on the ground, shattered to a million pieces. Now, I respect my dad. My dad's probably one of the best human beings I know. But, he went through shit in his life, and I don't know where he got that from. But I know, I could be in a relationship and I could get angry. I would never hit the person I'm with, but I'll turn around and punch a hole in a wall.
Yeah, right.
And to me, that's okay. But because that's what I saw as a kid.
Yeah.
But in reality, someone thinks that and thinks, Jesus Christ, that could be me sometime. Right? So we don't, but now, like you said, getting that ability to stop and think, that it's the stopping and thinking. It shouldn't be like, well, I had to stop and think about it. That should be like, you should be proud of yourself, because most people don't stop and think. That's being asleep. You're awake in those moments, because obviously we've got these internal and external pulls. There's always something inside of us and always something outside of us trying to manipulate us or push us or pull us into a certain position, and it requires a certain level of consciousness to not allow that to happen. And that shouldn't be like that shouldn't be like, oh, well, fuck, I had to think about it. It should be, yeah, I fucking thought about it. And because of that, I acted in a righteous way instead. So that's a good thing, I think,
Yeah, and it's a constant battle. And I'm constantly dealing with it, not just with people in traffic, but, with my family and with my friends and with people in the gym. And it's all nonsense. It's all... When I get irritated or aggravated or angry, it's all internal.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing these people can do. There's people that'll come in this gym, and one of the things that gets me, man, it just gets me, is guys around my age not putting in the effort.
Yeah.
And when a girl goes back and grabs a 50-pound kettlebell and you grab a 35, and I guilt you on it, and it doesn't fucking do anything to you. Just... nothing. You're going to stick with your 35, even though I know you could do more. And I keep myself now. There's like deep breaths where you'll see me turn around and I'll just walk back over to the stereo and pretend like I'm fucking with the stereo or something. But I'm keeping myself from exploding, because it's like I want to go up and just grab him by the neck and go, motherfucker, you can do this. You can do more. Why are you being this guy? Why are you going across the beach and ringing that bell?
Yeah.
Why are you being that guy?
Yeah.
And those people I can't relate to, but it's one of those things that I deal with on a daily basis, where I've tried to become better at dealing with those things. Well,
and that's in a way you could look at that. That's your own 50-pound kettlebell.
Yeah, it is. It
because
is.
You could have taken the 30-pound kettlebell and got pissed off at that guy, but you chose to take the harder route and not been pissed off, right? And I think that's like all we can do as people is do the best we can do to set an example. We can't expect other people to act like we act.
Yes.
But we can do the best we can to set an example, and then at least at bare minimum, we know that we did our best. And some people will join and do the same thing, and some people won't. And I think we're always going to be like that. Everyone did the right thing. Well, I don't even think we'd be humans anymore.
Yeah.
We probably would have evolved into, we'd just be pure energy by now. Who knows? I don't know. But there's always going to be that battle between strong and weak, right and wrong, light and dark. And it is that battle, I think, that really defines what we are as a species, and also gives us the opportunity to rise above or to not. And we need to have that contrast, I think that's important. And maybe that guy couldn't, maybe that guy, he wussed out here. But maybe he went home and he's a good husband at least.
Yeah.
Or maybe he went home and he's a good dad. Or maybe he's not. Maybe he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's the world we live in. But you doing your best to be the best you can is on some level, that's the best we can do.
Well, the way I look at it is, and this is a recent thing for me, and the way it's keep me sane, is I'm trying to live those lives for them. So I'm living a life I want you to live.
Yeah.
You can join me, but I can't expect you to join me. I'm just going to live that life. I'm going to go get that 50-pound kettlebell, and I'm going to do it as hard as I can, and hopefully you will join in. If not, I'm doing the best that I can do.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just it's those things, and it's dealing with the public, and I'm sure you get it too as a personal trainer, that some people walk in and you get that one guy who walks in and just like, fuck, not this guy again,
Well, one of the things I've learned is that I can fire clients.
That's important, right?
And you know, because the way I look at it is I gotta have a certain level and a certain attitude, you know, for if I count when I get up in the morning, let's just say I just count my client hours. You know, there's a good, you know, anywhere from you know 5 to 11 hours that I got to be positive. I got to be able to exude some degree of energy and inspiration to people. And if I have a client that comes in that sucks that out of me, well, now that person is affecting the rest of my people. Yeah. And it's my responsibility to say, hey, if you don't want to be here, then don't be here. And I don't have, like, I have the ability now to say, no, this isn't going to work. Yeah. And I've fired clients before, you know, and actually this is an interesting story. There's this girl that I work with and I love her. We've been working together for a couple of years now. Her doctor said she needed to get, you know, core strength. So she had this back pain all the time. And she comes in and we're working on stuff. And I mean, I've read Stu McGill's books and I'm pretty well versed in this stuff. You know, in the last few years, I've got 16 certifications over and above my original personal training. I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to the rehab aspect of the training game. And I mean, like, I'm not say John Rosen or any of those guys. I'm not that level, but you know, I would like to think that I'm much more than the average personal trainer. Yeah. And I try to help a lot of people restore quality of life. That's a big deal for me. But anyways, you know, about the 6-week mark, she's not feeling any better. Actually, it was probably about 4 weeks, not feeling any better. I'm like, you should go, like, you get an x-ray? No, I haven't had one. I'm like, maybe get an x-ray. Yeah. 6-week mark, no change. You know, like, go get an x-ray. Finally, I introduced her to a friend of mine who's a little bit older, and another brilliant guy, Kennedy, and he says, you know, if you're having these issues, you need to go get an x-ray. So finally she goes gets an x-ray. And a friend of mine was a chiropractic clinic, and inside the building there's an x-ray clinic. Gets an x-ray. He looks at it, he says, I'm not touching you, you need surgery. Wow. So long story short, she ends up getting surgery. She comes back, she's still training with me. And through the process of like getting her ready for surgery, we couldn't do a lot of heavy work really because I didn't want to put any potential, you know, pressure on the spine. I didn't want really any excessive axial load. Anytime I don't believe in training into pain. Like, you're burning, too bad, fucking push through it. It hurts, let's not do that. That's your body saying this is not working. So now we're going through the process of trying to build some strength because we did this you know, conditioning shit for so long. She's not getting results anymore. You know that. Like, you do the same thing for a long time, your body you don't get any results. So we've been going through the process of getting her strong. And I mean, like, she had a hard time pressing 10-pound dumbbells before, and now I had her pressing 30 pounds the other day. And this is a process of like maybe over the last 8 weeks we've been working to build. That's huge. And and she doesn't understand how far she's come, you know. But she looks. The other day she came in and we're doing incline press, and she was doing the last time I got her doing sets of 10 reps with 20. So it's okay, we're gonna grab the 25s today. She does a set of 6, and she's like, you know, just moaning, groaning, griping, complaining. She always kind of complains, and it's funny because we have this relationship. I tell her to harden the fuck up, and she says, "Fuck you, Matt." Playful, right? Yeah. And the next set, she's just like, she does 4 reps, and she's just like, I can't. I'm not. No, I can't. And I know she can. So I took him away. I set him back on the rack. And I said, if you want to act like a child, we're going to lift like a child. I grabbed the 5-pound dumbbell, and the rest of the workout, she was doing, and she stuck it out. Yeah. We barely said a word to each other. Yeah. She stuck it out. She did the workout, but 5-pound dumbbells for the presses, 5-pound dumbbells for the rows, body weight, reverse lunges. Yeah. You know, we did some core, and I'm like, okay, took the weight off the squat bar. I'm like, we're just doing the bar sets of 5. And that's what I said. I said, if you want to complain like a child, we'll lift like a child. And it occurred to me, and it was this kind of funny thing, like, you know, I think in life sometimes, you know, you're given these things that are going to be fucking tough, and they're there to make you stronger. And if you don't want them, then they'll be taken away from you. Yeah. And I don't know. Solely opportunities that they lead to. Yeah, exactly. And it was kind of this, like, I don't know if it was meant to happen for her, if it was meant to happen for me to see that, but you know, if you're not willing to accept how hard something's going to be and you just want to give up, then sometimes that those opportunities and those circumstances are going to be taken away until you're ready again. Yeah. You know, and it was kind of this cool realization for me. I still haven't chatted with her yet, but like, we're like brother and sister now, right? So I mean, she's going to come back and we're going to have a little chat about it. She'll probably give me shit and I'll give her shit back, and we'll laugh and hug and tell each other we love each other, and we'll get back to it. Yeah. But you know, you got to be willing to push, and sometimes it's going to be hard and it's going to be uncomfortable. And if you're not willing to do that, well, then go fucking back home and sit down on the couch. One of the things I deal with, and I have a really hard time. So I used to only train Just saw this. This is awesome.
Little Frazetta work there with the death dealer on the wall behind you. Yes,
That's awesome.
That was done by Liz, who does all our. I'll show you the gym when we get done. She did a huge mural out there. One of the things I just used to train junior high, high school, college athletes, and they trained in my 20x20 garage, and they paid, I think it was like $75 a month back then, and it was small group training, but these were all go-getters. And a lot of those kids have now gone on. One's a strength coach at University of Ashland, which is like a sports factory down here. Another one a couple of them work for me now. But others one's a throws coach at Townsend, and there's a lot of them out there. And these were kids who just would do anything. They would run through brick walls. And every kid I got in there was like that. And we get kids now who are of a different ilk. And I don't know if it's, again, the cell phones or the video games or what it is. But a lot of times mom will bring them in. And I think mom recognizes in these kids at some subconscious level what they wouldn't have looked for in a mate. So they bring in these soft, never challenged kids and want me to work with them. Now, they don't realize that they are the reason why these kids are like that, because they've coddled them their whole lives. So they bring these kids in, and I say to them, it's man camp. This isn't about how much you bench press. I have to get you to a point where you are showing me some courage and some fortitude and mental toughness and a willingness not to quit. And through all those things, you're going to get in shape. But a lot of times I have to corral mom, who's also working out in the gym, and she's usually the first one that comes in and realizes, I'm losing weight, I'm feeling good, now I'm going to get my son in here. But I've got to corral mom and keep mom away from you, because, no Spartan ever did well until they took him away at 7 years old and put him in the agoge. And took him away from mom. And it's very difficult for me, and I my wife and I talked about this the other day, and I don't know if I love it or I hate it, because I love the fact that when it's successful, I feel this huge accomplishment, but I see it so often. And every kid who walks through the door is like this. We had a kid last year, maybe 2 years ago, but we called him the unicorn, because he was this kid who came in and he was a throwback to the old days where he just wanted to lift and he just wanted to be strong. He would do anything you told him to do. And now he's in the Army. But he was a unicorn because those kids don't exist anymore. So I look at, when I train young kids in here, young boys especially, as I'm training them to be men, and I want to instill those values in them that I feel are important. The other thing I do with them is a lot of times I'll assign reading material to them. Good. You have to read The Old Man and the Sea, and you have to come back and tell me everything about that book.
I love that.
They'll look at me like, fuck.
I gotta read.
You gotta
can I get it on my cell phone at least?
Can I get it?
Can it be read to me? Can it be read to me?
Right. But I do that a lot with them. And one kid in here recently, and I tell him every day, you're either going to end up loving me or hating me, but you're going to be successful when you're out of here. And I pulled him aside the other day after workout, and I said, hey, what are you into? What's your thing? What do you like to do? And he's like, oh, no. I said, are you into video games? He's like, yeah. And I think his mom heard us talking. She started wandering over slowly. And I said, well, that's awesome. I said, how many video games do you play during the day? How many hours? And mom starts chirping in, and I'm not listening to mom. And he's like, probably about 5 or 6 hours a day. And my head's exploding, but I'm trying to keep calm. And I said, awesome. And now I finally talked to mom. I turned around and I said, Mom, I said, for every hour he plays video games, I want him to come over to you, find you in the kitchen, find you in the living room, and do 20 push-ups, 20 air squats, 20 sit-ups. Then he can go play an hour of video games. And then I looked back at the kid, and his eyeballs were like saucers. I mean, just huge. Like, oh, God.
And that's not that much. That's the thing.
No,
that's not much.
Nothing.
We get that done in a minute and a half.
Yes. And then I looked at Mom, and her eyeballs were saucers. And I go, these are the new rules. This is the new reality. This is what we do.
Yeah.
Comes in the next day, I said, how many hours of video games did you play yesterday? And he said, 1. Either way, I win.
Yeah.
You're either going to get in super shape or you're going to stop playing those fucking video games all the time. You know?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple things that are first off, I fucking love that. Dude. That's so awesome. There's a couple things. So we were talking about like why this happens. I think nowadays too we're in a society where we coddle people.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you listen to Jordan Peterson or read his stuff.
I like Jordan Peterson. I mean, not everything I agree with, but people who don't like Jordan Peterson, I gotta question why. What don't you like about it?
I think from my experience, because I've read his book, I watched a lot of his videos and stuff, and I think sometimes people take the things that he says personally when it's not a personal statement. It's based on research.
Like the guy who talked to you about having kids that he can't get all that shit done.
Yeah. And I think too, because he got a lot of flack over this whole issue with the legislation of the pronouns for.
Yeah, right. That's how he became famous. Right?
Yeah, and that's because it was a big hubbub, and I think people thought that he was some sort of bigot or he was some sort of sexist person or whatever, and didn't like gay people or whatever. And in reality, it wasn't about that. He talks about, when in history, throughout history, anytime you start telling people what they can and can't say, it's the beginning of something very bad. And that's all it was. It had nothing to do with anything personal. And he did say, because he'd been attacked on so many levels. And I heard him in one of his talks, he said, someone had attacked him, and he responded in a negative way. And he said, I made a mistake, and I shouldn't have said those things. That's what I like about him, too. He owns up.
Yeah,
he says, he owns up to it. But, there's this concept he talks about how it's there's this toxic masculinity concept where it's not okay to be a man anymore because all of these negative things that great deal of men have done over the years have kind of like created this dark cloud over being a man in general. And I don't disagree that there's a lot of bad things, but there is a lot of positive things about masculinity. And because we kind of look at overall masculinity now and paint it through, or look at it through that dark lens of these things that have happened, now being masculine in any way, shape, or form is attributed to being, a fucking rapist or something like that.
Barbarian.
Yeah, and that's why, you refined savage. There's the savage, but then there's the refined savage. There's the savage that loses his cool on the person that grabs the 30-pound kettlebell or gives the person the finger, and there's the refined savage who stops and thinks about it. He still has the spirit of the warrior, but he also has the mind and the wisdom of the Buddhist. And I think to some degree, we've got the society now where we're trying to make everyone happy to the point of creating weakness that goes throughout society, where it's okay to do nothing. It's okay to show up and get a trophy. It's like, well, we'll take out competition because competition breeds this and this. Well, if you have no reason to fight to win here, then you don't really have ambition necessarily to go a lot of these other places too. I think that's a big part of it, and that's a whole discussion of itself. But I really like the working out. If you're gonna, I would say that I would say like playing. If you look at playing video games, this is a privilege. Privileges usually should be earned. And if you want to earn that privilege, then you got to do something that counterbalances. And then I think too, making an association, right? So like my dad, for example, again, hardworking guy, probably one of the most hardworking people I know of. Iron worker by trade, busts his ass. Like he used to drive 3 to 4 hours to work at 12, drive home so he could be home with his kid. He'd come home and do a mess because, stepmom, anyways, blah, blah, blah. But, he had a hard time working out for himself. I can't, it's like not that he was unhealthy, but physically he was starting to deteriorate a little bit. And I said, okay, it's important to understand that the human mind works based on associations. And we have this fundamental urge to move towards pleasure or away from pain. So if you kind of view working out as something that's like, it just doesn't feel good, then you have that association of it not being good. So you're always going to move away from it. If you start to associate it with something that, makes you feel good, and so doing housework makes him feel good. I said, how about from here on out, And I don't think he ever did it.
Yeah.
But I thought in my mind, what a brilliant concept I came up with. But associate it with something. So if he felt good doing the dishes, how about when you do the dishes, after you do the dishes, you do 10 push-ups? How about after you sweep the floor, you do 10 squats?
Yeah.
How about after you mow the lawn, you do a minute-long plank? And you start to associate now this physical activity with something else that makes you feel good. And in your head, you start to link the two. And then all of a sudden, okay, it actually feels good to do this stuff.
Yeah.
And you get the added benefit of doing that, right? And hopefully, to some degree, maybe this kid starts to, because he enjoys the video games, maybe he'll start to enjoy the working out because he knows that the two kind of can parallel with each other, and they can create that positive association.
And going back to the masculinity thing, it's a source of frustration for me. I don't think it's as widespread as the media will have you think. Have you ever read any of Jack Donovan's stuff, like
No.
The Way of Men?
No.
So Jack is a misunderstood guy, in my opinion. He's another Jordan Peterson type guy. So Jack is a big Jack dude. He's a weightlifter guy, but he's written all these books. And a lot of them deal with masculinity and the nonsense surrounding it. And what he preaches is strength, honor, courage, mastery. So be strong physically, be courageous, be honorable, and then be good at something.
Yeah.
And these are not outrageous concepts that he should get charred over the coals for,
Yeah.
And it's looked at, but he's targeted as a bigot, as a homophobe, as which is funny because if you knew his background, and it's not my place to talk about his background, but if you knew his background, he is certainly not those things at all. But people don't look into that long enough to realize, and there's another guy, Paul Wagner, down here who wrote a book called Operation Werewolf, and he's been targeted by every, the Southern Poverty Law Center and all these things as some kind of racist. And maybe he is, but I've read everything he's written. That I think I've read everything he's written, and I've never heard a racial comment about anything.
Yeah.
But he kind of runs this thing called it's some kind of man group where they've got this Fenris Wolf insignia as their, almost like a motorcycle gang type thing.
Yeah.
It's very manly and but his stuff is fantastic. His writing is fantastic, but he's riding motorcycles and he's shooting guns and he's getting jacked and he's doing jiu-jitsu and all this stuff. But I think there's an automatic pushback, not just from women in society, but men who don't want to put in the work to become that person. So they jump on board with this social justice stuff that downplays that. That's not important. Those things are not important to be a man. Mm-hmm. It's important that I, support women's causes and I support, all these. Men are men and women are women, and it's just the way it is. And I have no problem with if you want to transition to be a woman from a man, that's great because you're not bothering me at all.
Yeah.
But like Jordan Peterson talked about, I'm also not going to deal with made up terms that you've invented for some weird gender that doesn't really exist, and then force me under the penalty of law to use those words to discuss to associate with them.
Yeah.
And that's but getting back to Jack Donovan, those are not crazy concepts. Strength, honor, courage, mastery. I would want to instill that in every young man who comes into this building.
Absolutely.
And the problems come when men who are 40 years old are missing one of those, or all of those.
Yeah. And I think too, those aren't. I think because those are very all-encompassing terms, and I think a lot of times people don't look at it that way. And it's not just. I mean, you can have all that stuff and be a woman.
Absolutely, 100%.
And it's not.
My wife has all those characteristics.
Yeah. Like Erin's badass.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know her super well, but what I do know of her, she's a badass.
Yeah.
She's a very strong woman. She's independent. You know, she's clearly intelligent. She shacked up with you.
Yes. Maybe
Or vice
doesn't make the
versa.
best
maybe
marriage
you're the smart one.
Nailed that down.
But I
real
mean,
quick.
you know, when I think sometimes maybe there's an issue when we look at these terms and we say that it's you know. I think where people get held up is when they segregate masculine stuff and feminine stuff.
Yeah.
They say like strength, honor, and courage. That's a male trait. Well, that's where it gets tricky because I mean, you can look at the symbolism of stuff, and that's what I like about Jordan Peterson. He goes back down to the symbolism and talks about like from the like, you know, he's done the research, right? And it's not that it's I think of it more as like it's the yang. It's the hard energy, which typically tends to be symbolic of male. That doesn't mean that it's only male. It doesn't mean that a woman can't have it. Just like there's other traits that are soft, you know, that tend to be kind of looked at as feminine traits. But that doesn't mean they're only feminine.
Sure.
And it doesn't make you less of a man to have those. Like, I'm a very caring person. I'm an affectionate person.
I'm a super emotional person.
Same here.
I cry at everything.
Yeah. But I don't think, I wouldn't say that makes you less of a man. And I think that's sometimes where people get mixed up, is because they start to take it personally instead of kind of looking at these terms as, you know, it's just a name. It's just a name, and it's supposed to embody a quality. And if we think of it in terms, and that's why I kind of like the yin and yang, the hard and the soft. Think of it more in terms of hard. And males tend to be viewed as hard because physically we're built to be stronger. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And that doesn't mean that women can't be stronger too. Just like males, that doesn't mean that we can't be softer too. But that doesn't mean that one side or the other side is bad or not worthy or unequal. You know, like if everything in society was, you know, if there was no, you know, feminine sway in any way, shape, or form, we definitely would have all killed each other.
Sure, right, yeah, there's
you know, we need each other.
Yeah.
We need those soft qualities as well. And I think, you know, a big part of the problem, too, is that those soft qualities weren't valued for so long that now that, you know, and equality is an amazing thing and it's very important. But I think now that there's certain levels of the feminist movement that are pushing beyond feminism into a realm of like hating every male hard quality.
Right.
And I think that becomes a problem too. And I don't think that's why I like the idea of equality. You know, like men shouldn't look at, I don't want to look at a woman as weak. Physically, maybe she's not physically as strong as me, but that's because she's built that way.
Yeah.
But in a lot of ways, she's going to be a lot tougher than I'll ever be. Yeah, you'd have a kid. Jesus Christ, I've taken craps that have made me cry.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't imagine. And to raise a child, to have that level of the love and precision and all this stuff. Like I said, I had a plant that lasted for 2 weeks. I have the utmost respect for female qualities. I was raised by my mother.
Yeah.
You know, and like I have the utmost respect for my father as well. But I think that's is where a lot of those issues come from, is that we tend to look at these qualities and say, well, once we segregate male and female, I think it should be looked more at as hard and soft. And I think if we tend to look at it in that way, because people get held up over the segregation of terms and then how they relate to us as individuals, as opposed to just looking at qualities in general. If we could reassess and look at things as qualities, and maybe one gender tends to have more qualities, more of these qualities than the other qualities, but that doesn't make those qualities more important than the other ones. For one, and for two, we're built differently.
Yeah,
you know, you can't like. There's some freaking strong women out there. Don't get me wrong, physically incredibly strong. But typically, females are just not hormonally and structurally built to be as strong.
Sure.
Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know, just like men, we're not structurally, you know, built or psychologically and emotionally built to do the same things that females can do. Nothing wrong with that. And both should be valued and both should be respected, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was on a podcast. Aaron and I were both on a podcast a while back, and I can't remember the name of the podcast. It was something like Barbells and Bibles or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
But the girl who runs it is a Highland Games athlete named Janine, and she is a uber feminist. And I think she wanted when she interviewed me, I think she was expecting me to fight that, and she started talking about the fact that on my Instagram I talk about masculinity a lot, and I said, well, you're a feminist, right? And she said, yes. And I said, well, explain to me what you think feminism is and what your view of it is. And she goes, well, I just believe in equality for everyone. And I said, well, then I'm a feminist too.
Yeah.
I don't understand where me promoting the fact that masculine virtues are good somehow degrades your thought of that femininity isn't good. And it was one of those aha moments, I think, where hopefully she looked at it and went, oh, this guy isn't a dickhead who's out to...
just a male chauvinistic pig.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you talked about finding women who are strong, when the Spartans were around, the only people that were allowed to have gravestones in their cemeteries were warriors who died in battle or women who died in childbirth. They were given equal status.
Yeah.
Because those were the two most important things. And I think one of the things when young men start to find mates, a lot of the times, and I was guilty of this, and a lot of men I know were guilty of this, they start looking for women and they feel like they're going to save them.
Yeah.
And I think women do the same thing. And you don't want, whether you're a man or woman, you don't want to be in that relationship. You want someone who is going to be mentally strong so that you don't have to spend your time making sure they're constantly okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of marriages and relationships fail is, yeah, you're hot, yeah, you're fun, but, oh, well, she's got some mental, hiccups that we need to deal with. You have to pick mates who are going to hoist you up, not be an albatross around your neck constantly.
Exactly, yeah. And what I look at in terms of relationship is I think a relationship should create a synergy, which means essentially that, you two together should be greater than the sum of what you two bring into the relationship. Yeah. So and whether that's, that yin and the yang creating a little bit of a completeness where now we have, you make up for my weaknesses or vice versa, or whether it's just, encouragement to have someone that helps you to achieve your goals and dreams or cares about that, whether it's just some sort of give and take relationship instead of it being a tug and war, it's a flow.
Yeah.
It's more like Tai Chi, as opposed to judo. We're not looking to score points against each other here. We're looking to flow together. Let's create something beautiful as opposed to bash heads. Now, that being said, I also think it's very important to be able to challenge each other. Like when you said, Aaron says things sometimes and you stew over it and you think about that. That's important.
Yeah.
Because that creates growth.
Yes.
And you should never, I think I think that if you have a relationship that's perfect and there's never any confrontation, I think that's probably on some levels not necessarily a good thing either.
Someone's being weak.
Yeah. There's some degree of someone tolerating, absorbing, but not answering back. And then and you might not, maybe you're that person, maybe the other person's that person, but then you don't realize if that other person never say anything, maybe you don't realize that you're having this effect on someone, right? And I think we've all probably to some degree been in a relationship like that. And no relationship is perfect, nor should we strive for perfection, because we're not perfect creatures.
Yeah.
I always like the analogy. The Matrix is one of my favorite movies. There's a lot of philosophy in that.
It's one of those ones I want to show Hayden here eventually.
Oh yeah, nice. It's funny. I just asked one of my new clients. He started up. He's 20-year-old, and I asked him if he saw me. Oh, I haven't seen that. And I'm thinking and I start remembering I think that came out in '94.
Yeah,
oh shit,
this is old.
36 now.
Right.
But I like that. The Agent Smith at one point talks about the first Matrix. We created a perfect reality. And we lost entire crops.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, some of us thought that maybe humans lacked the capacity to basically to be able to enjoy that. And I think that, in reality, as humans, we can't grow if something doesn't challenge us.
Yeah.
And that's the problem when we talk about, the kids that are allowed to, you just sit at home and do nothing. Well, if you're never challenged and you have no reason to grow, then we're in trouble as a civilization.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think, in a relationship, there should be synergy, but I think that synergy also to some degree is created by having that level of challenge, by having someone that can challenge you. Because I'm not always right. Neither are you, and neither is she, or neither is Aaron, right? Yeah. But if we care about each other and we respect each other enough, then we can grow by challenging each other. And if we accept each other, and if we have the ability to look at things from the inside and stop and think, like you said, sometimes I take a day and I stew about it and I'm angry and I come back and I'm like, no, you were right. That's important. It's really important.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I changed everything in my life, when I quit Highland Games, and the first step was getting divorced. I was in a bad marriage, so I got out of that. Well, that was step one. Step two, I met Aaron, and that was another part of that snowball. And then step three, I started losing weight, and I started reading more, and blah, 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 blah. It just started rolling and rolling and rolling. And when we got together, now, for the first, 2 years of our relationship, first year she lived in Wisconsin, I lived here. Then she lived in Columbus. So we weren't together that often. So we weren't really together till we got married. And there was a lot of, especially that first year, figuring out how this was going to work, and a lot of being pissed off, and a lot of her going, this guy's a fucking idiot, or this guy's a slob, or and there was a huge adjustment period. And I see this a lot with young couples where they bag it during that adjustment period.
Yeah.
You've been together for a year or two, and you're not working on these problems. You're just getting angrier and angrier at these problems.
Yeah, when people say, I am the way that I am, and that's just how I am.
Fucking yeah, right.
Well, no, we all have the capacity to change. That's like saying you're perfect and you're going to stay the same way forever and fuck the rest of the world. No, that's not what a relationship is about. Right? It's like, I was in a relationship one time where, there's that book. Have you ever heard the book, The 5 Love Languages?
She's read it. She's talked to me about it all the time. We talk about it.
Yeah, it's this concept that basically people express love in different ways.
Right.
So as a kid, for example, I said I was raised by my mother. Dad wasn't around a lot. He worked a lot, and then he had another family. And, we've talked through this since, and we've worked through it. And my dad, like I said, I respect him probably more than most people ever. Sure. He's an amazing human being.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of amazing qualities. And but when I was young, Mom was very affectionate. She said, "I loved you." There was the hugs and the kisses, and as a kid, that was symbolic of love to me. And Dad didn't do that. So I remember thinking, and nor did his side of the family. So I remember growing up thinking that side of the family didn't care about me.
Yeah.
And that created a lot of issues for me because I had a lot of self-worth issues. Like I said earlier, your parents are models for God, right? So if you're rejected by your Creator, it must be because there's something wrong with you, or because you are worthless, right? So that was something that I'm still to this day working through, because a lot of those deep programs, those are still running, and you keep working on them, but you catch yourself, right? But later on, I realized that people express love in different ways, and when him and I finally had a chance to sit down and talk about all this stuff at one point, and he came to me. I think we talked for a couple hours in the car, cried, and laughed and whatever. But I realized that, the way he expressed love was different. We wasn't there in person. He didn't say I love you, and there wasn't all that stuff. But he went to work. He tried to set a good example. He's like, I always made sure the child support was paid. I always made sure that when you did come here, you had a nice house, you had this and that.
Yeah.
So for him, it was an act of service. Work is an expression of love for him. And still to this day, Grandma's damn near 90. He goes over there every day. He'll mow the lawn. He'll shovel the snow off the sea. He helps her with whatever he can. She still to this day will make food. So she gets up and she's like fucking 90, and she's make food, and they have that family thing where it's this exchange of service. And I think it's important for people, for one, to understand that people express love in different ways, and to really get, okay, so maybe someone doesn't express love the same way as you. But in a relationship, understanding that people don't express love the same way means that it's not like, well, I just don't express love that way, so too bad. It's like, if I know that your love language is different, I'm going to try to express love to you in the way that you would interpret it or understand it, not just the way I want to express it. Right. So it's not an excuse to not do that and to say, well, that's just not my love language. It's a reason to say, oh, now I know, and because I care about you, I'm going to express that to you in a way that you understand, not just the way that I understand.
Yeah. I'm going to work on myself.
Yeah.
In order to make you happy and in turn make us better.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about that book several times, and I probably should read it. She's read it a few times, and I think it helped with our marriage, especially in the beginning, and we never had crazy problems. It was more just adjusting to being with someone all the time.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, that adjustment period, like when you care about someone, I like that Facebook meme before they talked about, older relationships or people that have started relationships a long time ago on this, 50th anniversary, 60th anniversary. Well, because a long time ago when things were broken, they didn't throw them out, they fixed them.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the thing is that, when if you really truly care about someone, and nowadays I think the big problem is with social media, there's always options. Yeah. People throwing them, like, everyone looks pretty. Yeah. Everyone looks good. There's just always, the grass is always greener. Yeah. You go on Instagram feed and it's just, all these beautiful women and attractive men and everything everywhere. So it's easier to jump ship. That's the thing. Like I said earlier, we move towards pleasure. We tend to want to do what's easy. So sometimes it's easier to jump ship and find something that seems easier instead of working on something and creating a meaningful relationship. Yeah. But it's that work, just like in training, just like in business, just like in life, it's that work that creates something that's important and that's grander than what we started with. I think if you have a relationship that requires absolutely no work at all, I don't necessarily think that's a good thing. I think
someone's probably being weak. Someone's probably getting rolled over.
Exactly.
I like the fact, that I can leave that cell phone anywhere in the house at any time. And if Aaron picks it up, there's never anything going to come through there that's crazy. Now, in my previous life, holy shit, crazy shit could have came through my phone.
It's like you need a fingerprint to get on that damn thing.
And I told her when we got together, I said that's one of the things that I really enjoy now is that phone is dead.
Yeah.
It's my buddies texting me, and now I have buddies like Carrie and Steve Pulcinella where inappropriate shit could come over, but it's more.
But
it's not going to be some girl throwing pussy at me.
Yeah. They might send a ridiculous video or something like that. But I mean, that's kind of like that's sometimes one of the stupid ways guys communicate, and it's humorous.
Yeah.
It's humorous. It's not harmful, and it. Like sometimes people look at it, well, it's crude. Yeah. Well, there's parts of me that are crude. Yeah. Sorry, that's the way I am. But there's a lot of parts of me that aren't crude, and that are, and you just got to accept that, right?
I agree wholeheartedly. So we've gone, I don't know how many, we're hour and 30 into this. We haven't even talked about your training clients at all. So what are you doing with people? I know personal training I couldn't do personal training. It drives me nuts. And it's so much work because you have to schedule them in intervals. And there's only so much you can get done in a day. So what's going on with that? How's that going?
So, well, it's going amazing. Well, I'll just say before I got into personal training, I went through a number of different careers. I won't go through everything, but there was a cornucopia of different things that I tried. And I made a realization one day because the last thing that I did before I got into personal training was I was an electrician. I was working. You know Adam Denny?
Yes.
We worked for him actually, and good honest work. And there's something that feels good about it. But I made a realization one day that I picked a career based on I wanted something that I could potentially travel with and make money with. And I realized one day that I picked something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life based on me. It was selfish. And then because of that, I was very unfulfilled day to day. And it got to a point where I couldn't sleep at night because I had anxiety going to work because I was there a lot of times with him, which was awesome. I loved working with him. Yeah, a great dude. He had tons of fun, great guy, super smart, incredible electrician. I think as a third-term electrical apprenticeship, I damn near wired an entire house. And we were getting jobs done fast. Great guy. Great family, actually. I love them all.
It was so hard when Jackie.
Oh, that was crushing. Yeah. That was crushing. I started to have anxiety at night, and I realized that I was doing this job, which was a good, like I said, good, honest work, but I wasn't making an effect in people's lives. And I'm one of those people where, and maybe it's because of the shit that happened to me as a kid or whatever, but I just what fulfills me is helping people. And that's how I got into training. And, you know, one of the things when I was working with Adam, I realized, so I think I started working with him when I was about 30. And I was strong, you know, but I was like, I always had back pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, all this shit. And here's this 38-year-old, you know, overweight guy who's more mobile than me and stronger than me, like, and with all this, you know, dysfunctional shit. And I'm like, holy shit, okay, I messed something up. So I messaged up. It was not long after that, I think it was in and around then where Matt Vincent had won the world championships, I believe, in Fergus. And he was always making posts about mobility and stuff. So I messaged him up. I saw him there, and I had him on Facebook, and I messaged him up, and I said, look, I know you're a busy guy. People are probably messaging you and stuff all the time. And I just said, I've been dealing with a lot of aches and pains and mobility issues. I see you post this stuff all the time. Can you refer me to a book or something that would help? That's all. I didn't want to, like, you know, I don't want to be one of those people that message people up and, like, you know, I'm just this random person. Right? They probably get that all the time. I don't want to be that guy. But, you know, he referred me to Kelly Starrett's, you know, Becoming a Supple Leopard.
Supple Leopard, right, yeah.
And that book kind of ignited in me this. I always believed that, like, I've had SI dysfunction since I was a kid. I think when I was 8 years old, my SI joint went out for the first time.
Wow.
And I couldn't walk. Yeah. Like, I remember as a kid how, like, you know, kind of jarring that was. Thankfully, my mom, you know, took me to a chiropractor or whatever, but through my entire life, you know, I had this SI dysfunction. So I was always to some degree in chronic pain. And reading that book, you know, I always felt that, you know, there was an answer out there if I figured out how to solve this problem.
Sure.
Because you're always just told, you know, oh, the ligaments are stretched now, so it's always going to be an issue. You know, but that book kind of led me into understanding that, okay, well, there's stuff going on in the body that if I can work with it, you know, I can start maybe being pain free. And that really bled into my personal training. So I always, you know, I always feel like, to some degree, if someone comes in, they're willing to put in the work, I think it's easy to get people, like, getting people fit or stronger or to build muscle. You know, as long as they're willing to come in, put in the work, and then they eat right, that part's easy.
Yep.
But restoring quality of life, you know, getting people that have had pain for 13, 14 years, they can't play with their kids anymore. You know, that, oh, my shoulder's been fucked up for so long, my back's been fucked up for so long. This one girl, like, you know, she had to get major surgery. Like, she got rods put in her spine. Wow. You know, but if you can do something to help these people, you know, and I think to some degree that sooner or later that's going to be everyone. You know, we're all going that way, especially nowadays where we sit down. So my personal training started to, you know, like the program, like I said, the getting people in shape part was easy, but I really started loving and admiring the art of figuring out how to help people become pain free.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still have a ton to learn, don't get me wrong, but I've, you know, I've been quite successful with that, and I really enjoy, you know, the process of building a connection with someone, and getting to know them, and, like, I'm a friendly person at heart, and I do, you know, sometimes I hate people, but sometimes I really love people.
Sure, I'm the same way.
Yeah. And, you know, what I do as a trainer is kind of has went a lot in that route. So now I have a pretty full spectrum of different types of clients. I think my youngest guy right now is 20. I think my oldest guy's in his 70s. Yeah. You know, and there's everything in between. And, you know, I really tried to fine tune, like, so, you know, I do my assessment. My assessment's not, I don't do you know, I don't care about how many burpees you can do. I don't care how much you can bench press. Yeah. I want to see, like, let's see your overhead squat. Let's do an active straight leg raise. Let's do some screenings to see what's misfiring, what's not firing, you know, what's too tight, what's not, you know, and let's work on fixing that. And then, you know, let's make a custom made warm up program for you. And then when we go into the workout, you know, I'm very much on getting them to do the movements properly. Now, you can't do the movement properly every single time, but, like, you know, the more we can work on refining our movement quality, the more we can have better quality movement, the more we have better quality life because we have less pain. Like, the body thrives with movement, and you know, you look at a person who's been in a hospital bed for 6 months, you know, they don't feel good when they get out, right? But that movement has to be, you know, to correct movement.
Yeah.
And if we have that, then it actually breathes life into a person. It can make them feel better. And that can have, that's like a ripple in the rest of their life. If they all of a sudden they don't have as much pain anymore, then maybe they're not no longer the asshole that gives you the finger when you're going through the roundabout or something like that. Yep. Maybe they're the person that starts being a little bit more polite. And so I kind of taken my training. Part of it for me is it's awesome to get people into shape, and I love that aspect of it. I also like restoring quality of life and making an impact in people's lives, because for me, this is my vehicle for making my impact in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know how else to do it.
Yeah.
It's
your mastery.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of my personal training then reflects that. So most of my clients I see 2 or 3 times a week. I'll do programming for them outside of that, obviously, as well, if they want it. I don't obviously do the bro training system with people. So I mean, like, none of my clients are on gear or anything like that. So, it's usually more like the high frequency. We hit a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And I usually use like an undulating kind of system where it's like, higher reps, then lower reps, then moderate reps, then even lower reps, and then back and forth. I've had really great success with that, getting people stronger, better shape. And it depends, like if someone wants more conditioning or whatever. But understanding all those systems is just part and parcel. And I think as a personal trainer, a lot of people kind of attack training from a very linear viewpoint. And for me, I try to have a bird's eye view of it, and think, like, I like a little bit more of a holistic approach to training, and you can understand that too. Now, with the Highland Games, I don't know about you, but man, my SI joint was always fucked when I was throwing. Yeah. My knee was always fucked. My shoulder hurt, because it was always very one-sided. Yeah. You're always torquing things on one side.
I have all my problems now on my left side because those were my breaks.
Yeah.
So everything I injure now is always on my left side.
Yeah. And just getting people back to being a little bit more balanced. And I always joke around, as a Canadian, we're always shoveling snow.
Sure.
And we rarely switch it up. So everyone's rotationally going to be kind of cranked on one side, right? So creating some semblance of balance there. But they get kind of that's kind of a grand overview. But really at the end of the day, for me, it's just, I always tell people I want to help you reach your goals, but I've got goals for you that you don't know about, but they're going to help you to reach those other goals, but they're also going to help your life be better in different ways. And I really believe in that. I feel like as a personal trainer, if you don't care about those things, you're doing your people a disservice to some degree. Like, you're not going to let someone do, if you see someone in here and they're doing squats and their knees are knocking together, you're going to say, don't do that anymore. Yeah. Because you care. Yeah. Right? At the end of the day, I see trainers where they just, it's not that at all. Like, they're not making an effort. They don't care. And to me, well, if you don't care, then you're in this for the wrong reason. Yeah. And as a personal trainer, I think that's, if you don't have an urge to want to make people's lives better, maybe you're just in it for a paycheck, then fuck you. Yeah, absolutely. go work somewhere else.
And you have to keep educating yourself. And I can't tell you how many people come in here that were former personal trainers, and I don't care. They're going to do things my way because it's the best way I know how to do it. Exactly. That's just the way it's going to be. And there's so many different degrees of personal trainers and strength coaches that it's a labor of love, and it's making yourself better every day at your job, which a lot of people don't get to do. You know, and this is one career where you can, make yourself better daily. Yeah, and I love it. Like, I love geeking out of this stuff. I love doing courses. I love the chance to meet people. Ken Kanakin up there? Yeah. Okay. Well, no, sorry, I don't know him. My business coach, my best friend I was talking about earlier, he actually worked, what do they call it? Not shadowing, but basically worked in the office with Ken Kanakin for years. So, I want to take his muscle, but I'm kind of like 1 degree of separation. I haven't had the chance to meet him yet. You should go to Swiss. We went to Swiss last year, me and Carrie. And I happen to be away. Yeah. But I want to go to it for sure. I want to go to Swiss, and then he does a muscle testing certification that I want to take. Absolutely. I think he said he's got one coming up in the fall. I'm going to make a point to take. But, Joe speaks volumes about this guy. The stuff that he knows. Brilliant. Brilliant guy. Out of this world. But I mean,
just like in anything else, when you care about it, you always want to learn and grow. Like, I legit probably have another 14, 15 certifications I paid for.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to find the time to do.
I'm trying to take the NSCA tactical one. That's my next step. As I like working with these guys who are tactical guys, military and police and fire, who want to be good.
Yeah.
Those are the guys I want to work with, these
it's
hard
exciting.
chargers, So I'm going to take that one. I want to spend more time working with that population. But that's my next one.
Yeah. That's nice. That's awesome. We went to this last fall. My friend Kennedy and I went to this. It was and I kind of like the outside aspect where it's not always just about the crazy workout stuff. But so we've got a couple certifications in barefoot strength training.
Yeah.
And the barefoot stuff, like understanding the foot is really incredible. Like, and because I've had flat feet. I have flat foot, and I have the orthotics and everything, and I train myself out of them, and my back and my knees have never been better. But we went to, it was a Barefoot Strong Summit, and, really learning about, how the brain works and how the body works in different ways, and how you can, like at the start, I do things that people don't even realize I'm doing in my warm-up. So contralateral limb movements will help to fire up the reticular activating system, which essentially is a part of the brain that helps you to learn and absorb information better. Okay. I implement that shit into my warm-ups without people knowing, because I know that once they do that and that part of their brain's lit up, then when we go into the rest of the workout, they're going to be able to better absorb the information that I'm giving them. And I also tap in, I incorporate diaphragmatic breathing right from the get-go. So when I'm doing the core exercises, I teach them how to breathe properly. And people don't necessarily realize that, but that's going to have and I don't always tell them, but you start learning how to breathe properly.
Huge.
Man, that can be a life changer. You sleep better, you have more energy, you can think more clearly. Like all these aches and pains start going.
I'm fascinated by that stuff. I'm really been working on breathing techniques, and it's fascinating. Check
out there's a book called The Oxygen Advantage by Patrick McEwen. I took his course. I think I'm one of the. I think there's when we first took the course, there was only 4 people in North America that were certified in the system, but. His course was amazing, and this guy's brilliant, and he spent his life learning about how to breathe properly and the implications of it. And it's opposite of the Wim Hof, in a way that he says there are benefits to both, and he just explains the difference between the two. But it's a tough system and can be an uncomfortable system. Like some of these exercises, you're borderline suffocating yourself. Yeah. But the interesting part is, to some degree. So, for example, you've always got a certain amount of oxygen in your blood. So if you're not running around and stuff, your blood oxygen level is like 99% or something like that. And when you're fighting to get oxygen, really what you need is more carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
Because carbon dioxide is what's there essentially for the chemical. So you need carbon dioxide for the chemical reaction to take place that allows the blood to release the oxygen into the muscle. Okay. So that's why the tactical guys need to control the breathing. The snipers do the box breathing and stuff, but in conditioning, when you take long, slow, deep breaths, you're doing that actually so that you can maintain some semblance of carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
So think about it. When you've got a person that's hyperventilating, what do you give them? Paper bag.
Yeah.
Why is that? It's not so that they can get more oxygen.
Yeah, it's the carbon dioxide.
Because they're hyperventilating, which means they have too much oxygen. And if you have too much oxygen, not enough carbon dioxide, then you're not actually able to absorb the oxygen that's in your blood. So then controlling your breathing or to getting less oxygen in, so there's one exercise, I think he calls it shark breathing or something like that. And this is a fucking tough exercise. And basically it's like, you do a normal inhalation, normal exhalation, and then you plug your nose, and you start walking. And when you have a medium need for air, you start jogging, and then you run faster and faster and faster, and you go as long as you possibly can. And then when you stop, first thing you do is you breathe in through your nose. Mm-hmm. So your nose releases nitric oxide, which is beneficial for you in so many different ways, but it builds up, so you want to get that in. So you inhale through the nose, but you have to control the first 6 breaths. And your diaphragm is spasming because your body is like, give me air.
Yeah.
And you got this little monitor on your finger that tells you how much oxygen is in your blood. And basically, if you can control that for about 6 breaths, you start seeing it go down. So you can simulate high altitude training with this method, which is amazing. Really neat. And it's hard as fuck to do. But the more you do it, the more you get a tolerance to having higher levels of carbon dioxide, and it actually will, doing stuff like that drastically increases your VO2 max.
Yeah.
Just amazing stuff. So anyways, long story short, check out that book.
I'll have to get that book from you. Man, this has been awesome. I'd love to have you do this again sometime. And,
I would love to come back sometime.
Yeah, we'll have you down and get this going. I'm so psyched how this turned out. It was a good one. Man, you want to get some food?
Yeah,
let's go eat some. I'm starving. All right. Anything else you want to plug before we go? What's your Instagram page?
It's Titan _training is my Instagram. Still working on putting some more education. Like you said, it's hard to get some stuff. So there's just a bunch of shirts off stuff with me. Well, no, there's some good stuff in there too. But moving forward, I'm looking to put a lot more. I want to start really putting this knowledge that I have to good use and actually start helping people a little bit more. And also the YouTube page there. I don't have much stuff on there, but moving forward, I want to start putting some more educational videos and stuff out there. And
I'll put the link up when we put the Facebook or the Instagram post up, and we'll get everybody linked up to you.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
Awesome. It's been great having you.
It's been an honor, man. I really appreciate it.
All right. This has been the Refined Savage. See ya.